Hello everybody, it's Marty McConnell, aka Off-Grid Gecko, and since I'm starting a new YouTube channel and redefining pretty much everything with my my social media stuff, I figured I'd make a little sort of an introduction video to kind of kick everything off, show you guys the homestead in its current state, and talk about some things. So I'm out here next to my garden. This garden is roughly, let me see, there's 3 sections here. I forget what it is. It comes out to right at like 1/10 of an acre or something like that. Maybe less. I'll do the calculation later. But these are my turnips. I don't know if you can see the little, yeah, you can kind of see them. Let's get down a little closer. So those guys are not turnips, I'm sorry, these are radishes. And these are white daikon radishes. I've already got a buyer in town, kind of a sushi restaurant that's interested, and he says he can't get them from his supplier, or he can, but it's a pain in the butt. So I didn't really start growing these for him. There was just something easy for me, and I grow these guys for microgreens, so I figured why not. And then next to them I've got baby kale, which was planted about the same time. Probably a little late for kale, but you know, reasons and stuff. And then I've got 4 rows of sugar beets that aren't doing crap, and they're like little tiny weedy things. And then we've got the wheat field, which is growing for overwintering. So these guys will sprout up a little bit, and then when it gets really cold, they'll kind of die back and concentrate on setting roots. And then first thing come spring, hopefully, they will all sprout right up, and I can harvest them a little early. These are an experiment, because I have experiments everywhere. That's something you'll learn about me on this channel. These are leeks, and I got the bulbs from a neighbor who had extras, and they didn't know what to do with all of them, so they gave me a little box of them, and I just went ahead and planted them down in the dirt. And next to them, I've got my hardneck garlics down there on that end. Those are my Persian stars. They all came up and they look really pretty, so those are going to overwinter as well. These leeks, I'm going to try to overwinter them. I don't know if they will in this climate or not, but we're fixing to find out. And then on this side, I've got army worm. Get off of there, you little shit. I think he's dead. These are a random hardneck garlic that I got from the farmer's market from somebody who was throwing them out. And then the next row over here is my grocery store garlics, and they have not come up, so hopefully they're just waiting for spring to, yeah. So that's kind of the that's the garden. That's the big garden. The experimental garden's over there. I'll show you around a little more. So over here, back in the woods, I've got a couple of trees that I've got knocked down. You might be able to see some of the, let me see if I can zoom in on it maybe. So there's a couple logs, and behind them there's a bunch of branches that are from some fallen trees that I knocked down, and right behind those is that big old half dead, what is that, a black walnut tree. So probably knock him over pretty soon. This area, the site, was mostly cedar, and I can't see nothing all of a sudden. All these trees back here, that's all cedar stuff. And so I basically finally got off my butt and had a dozer come in, because I was down to my last dollar, and had them kind of push me out an area in here, and then pile up all the dead trees on these big piles over here, so that I'd have a little room to build my house. And there's my house. It's not the best house in the world. It's far from complete, according to the tax people, so I get a break on that until I get siding and flooring down. This is a little greenhouse experiment, and I actually haven't even looked in here in weeks. There's probably like snakes and rats and all kinds of critters hiding from the weather. But that was going to be a little micro greenhouse, and yeah, it doesn't work out for various reasons. I've got my little forest over here, and for my axe cordwood challenge, which Stephen Edholm, ooh, there's a puffball, kick it. Stephen Edholm kind of started this challenge a couple years ago, and I figured it would be a good way for me to learn my axemanship skills. So I come out here when I'm doing my cordwood challenge logs, and as you can see, I've caught quite a little swath of destruction through here. Basically knocking out these cedar trees to where everything's a little bit more cleaned up and not quite so scraggly like this stuff over here, because eventually I want like clear all of this off and convert this land back into pasture, which it was before previous owner screwed with it, or failed to screw with it, as it were. My house runs on sunshine and rainwater, so you can see the big old solar panels that are out here in front. This is I think, holy moly, you can't be just laying in the way, monster. Oh man. So you got these guys laying around, and if you don't keep an eye out for them, you will step on them, and then they get pissed off and they bite you because they're dumb and they don't know how to stay out of your way. Why aren't you moving? You're supposed to be afraid of me. Yeah, flick your little tongue again. Piece of crap. You're supposed to move when you see me coming. So, anyways, he's flattened out. I don't know why he's flattened out. I don't normally see copperheads like that. And he's kind of fat, too. Not looking super healthy. Anyways, I don't really bother about them so much, as long as they don't bite me. And normally, they're smart enough to just move out of the way when you poke them. You're supposed to move, dummy. Can't be just laying there. Anyways, kind of watch where I'm walking so I don't step on any more of them, on any of his buddies. They're out here sunning themselves because it's a warm day and we haven't gotten a lot of those lately. So these are the solar panels. I think this is 1.8 kilowatts worth of solar panels. It's really big. That's the little generator shack over there. And my house, as I said, is not sided, but I got some windows in, and I got me a little porch kind of built on here. You're going to notice a lot of aluminum cans laying around. I make this stuff out of them. I'm basically playing with melting aluminum. Those are, what is that stuff called? Potash, but it hasn't been dried yet, so it's still liquid potash. And its buddy is over here. This is the leftover carbonates from the ashes that I cut to make those jars. And I'm drying these out so that I can pop them into this thing over here. This is my little kiln, and it's not hot enough. It's not really doing the number on the rocks themselves, but I use this for melting aluminum, and I'm going to start making lime. So that stuff that's left over in your ashes after you leach them is mostly calcium carbonate and silicates. Or not silicates proper, but actually just tiny, finely ground up pieces of glass. So you put that in here and cook it to about 800 or 900 degrees Celsius, and that will make lime. So it'll convert them to calcium oxide, and then you drop that in water and you can make slake lime. This is my little pizza oven thing. I may be doing some more cooking demonstrations. Basically, this isn't earthen. This is a mixture of concrete and vermiculite, and it's actually held up a lot better than I thought it would when I built it. And I just built the forms out of scrap wood that I had laying around. Where we at? The video's getting long. There is the original off-grid cabin, which I built with a buddy of mine a while ago, and I was actually living in there. When I would come out, that was like base camp. This is a little pole barn that I threw up, sort of in the heat of the moment. And I've got my firewood piles drying back there in the back. And I've got some log pieces curing over here. So that stuff will be good for making axe handles and stuff like that, hopefully. The rest of this looks kind of junky, and you can't even see back there, but there's nothing to really see. I got a little bench with some random stuff on it. Got my log piles. These are my inside log piles. The outside stuff is so basically these are the dry ones over here, and then my regular log piles, that's my cordwood pile, and then that one to the left is my regular firewood pile. So as you can tell, I haven't made much progress on my cordwood challenge in a couple weeks because I've been busy with stuff. This is the main water catch system for the house. So this thing's got a pretty big roof, and water just runs off this gutter and then down into these tanks where I can feed my garden and do that kind of stuff. And then I'll pump out of these tanks to those two over by the house and treat it, and that's my, you know, my water for washing and whatever. And then I'll also make buckets and treat them special for drinking water. There's all kinds of little bugs and critters. This was the experimental garden. Weeds have pretty much taken it completely over, but there's still a few things growing in here, so I can get some seeds for next year out of that little cucumber dangling on the thing over there. Over here is, I don't know what this plant thinks it's doing, but I've got some, crank this up a little bit, got my little watering station. So basically, oh yeah, I put those plants in there to make string out of, and I never did. So basically this thing never runs dry. It drips down off the roof of the cabin and it just fills this up, so when it gets really cold, this will turn into a giant 50-gallon ice cube. And then I've got another feed bucket right here next to it that catches the overspill, so there's always water to, like, you know, cool off on hot days. Don't really use it for much else than that. The animals love it. They come over here and drink out of it when they're thirsty. Yeah, and that's kind of the walk around the outside. I've been doing some chopping today, so that's why my cart's over here. I just basically chop the wood over there in the forest and then fill up that little cart, drag it over here, and stack it on the pile. That's the way we do it. These are the water tanks. Pretty simple system. I'm using a little Studer valve to keep bugs and insects and stuff out, but that will basically, this stuff runs into the side of the house, and then I've got plumbing coming back out, and that provides my main water line for the house. So there's no water coming from the city or anything. It's completely off grid and cut off from everything. I need to put this back inside. My storm door got ripped off in that little storm we had, so I need to repair this, but for right now I just don't care. I'll probably get to it later today because I've got time today. There's ladybugs everywhere because they're all looking for a warm place to hole up for the winter. I'd prefer it wasn't in here, but what are you gonna do? Alright, and then there's the house. So this place is an absolute mess right now. I'm actually chopping some more of this stuff, this little kindling for my fire stove. Put that up there. Got my little kitchen stuff. Got some shelving finally. So it's all fully loaded to get some of this stuff off the counter. That's the microgreen station over there. So that's pretty much all my microgreen making materials. Hot water heater. Little clothes drying rack right here next to the stove so that I can dry my clothes in the wintertime. And this is the stove, and this is some of the aluminum ingots that I've made. I haven't quite figured out the casting process with these guys yet. Let me just turn this down a little more. Haven't quite figured out the casting process yet, but I can make these little ingots at least, and I'll have plenty of aluminum to play with, and that'll be less soda cans laying around. This is the workstation, which doubles as my market garden thing. Ooh, and this is pretty cool over here. I've never been able to be successful with this before, with starting plants this way from cuttings. But you can see there's 4 cups that have Melissa officinalis growing in them. It's lemon balm. And then over here, one of my little pear trees actually started to bud out. Don't know what I'm going to do with him because he's not supposed to bud out till spring, but, you know, I'll just take care of him and then put him outside in the spring maybe. Yeah, again, absolute wreck. These are 2 plants that I grew from seed this year. So these were the only two that survived out of the initial seedling tray for the garden. There's my wonderful view of the outside world and some random junk and stuff. The ceiling is going to be extra insulated, so I've got my regular insulation there. There's a space above it for ventilation, and then I'm putting these foam boards on top of that. And even though it's not done, this place stays pretty warm. And then we go back in here. Where are we for time? And this is the bathroom. You may notice there's no toilet, even though there's a little thing sticking out of the ground over here. So I'm eventually going to put probably a sink and a wash station right here. There's already a drain in place. I've already got the water lines hooked up and ready to go. So everything's set. I just need to get on about it once I start to give a crap. I've even got electric run for plugs and maybe a vanity light. This was going to be the main ventilation pipe for the water system, but I ended up not needing it because the only thing running on a vent pipe right now is the shower, and I've got a little Studer valve just hidden back behind there, so I don't really need this at the moment. But I've got a drain for a toilet if I ever decide I want one, and then I've got a drain for that sink over there if I decide to put it in. Shower needs to be cleaned. These buckets are my solid waste disposal system. So this one's just filled up with sawdust from a local mill that I get for free. And then the dookie goes in there, gets covered with that, and then eventually out to the compost pile, which I totally skipped on this little tour, but maybe later. Now I've got my bed rack, which I call the nest, and right next to it, and then my little laundry station over there, and grow lights. So these are my microgreen growies, which I need to harvest these guys tonight because these are about ready. This is radish microgreens, the same radishes that are outside. These are the little baby plants, and go through there with the scissors and just chop them off and stack them up and load them up. I've also got sunflowers growing in these two trays on the bottom, and they're pushing up on the top tray, so I can get maybe a little glimpse inside there. Let me play with the settings a bit. So you can see them all in there trying to grow. And then we've got a random shelf that is tools, books, and other random stuff, some growing things. Underneath here I actually have the rack for it. I need to put another light rack down here. This one's already loaded with light, so that next rack will act as a tray for this light, and then I can have stuff down all the way from bottom to top here. So makes a pretty good little growing stand. I'm not selling much, so for right now this is working fine, which is why everything's been postponed. And that's pretty much it. I plan on putting in a lot of storage back here on these walls near the nest, because the space is just being unused and it annoys me to look at unused space. I also may make some drop downs for the exposed ceiling to basically just so I have extra room that I can park stuff away. This is the random tool station with my little hatchet leading the pack. It's supposed to be outside, but I may do some more kindling chopping today, and that's all Mr. Hatchet's getting used for. Hand carved handle, so when it comes time to upgrade that handle, I'll let you know. And this is actually an oak handle, but I'll get into that rant some other time. This is a piece of scrap steel right here that I got from the place that I'm working at, and I'm planning on carving a machete into it, so I'm gonna get to that later today maybe and fiddle with it, and some guns and saws and random stuff. This is the battery room, so I got batteries down there, and I've got all my electrical boxes and stuff on the wall. So this is like the power station back in here, and we'll talk more about that later. And then at the center of the house, where it belongs, is my hearth, my little wood stove. And this is what keeps the whole place warm in the winter. And like I said, clothes drying rack over there right next to it, so I can bring my clothes in at night, fire up the wood stove, and then finish drying before morning. Plus it keeps them nice and toasty when I wake up. I've got some shelves under the counter, and the counter's not really boxed in, but there's just some extra little storage cubbies everywhere, because the more storage the better. Anyways, that's a little tour around the place. Let me see if I can get myself in focus, because I look weird. So that's a little tour around the cabin, and kind of so you can get an idea sort of what the thing looks like. I own 80 acres out here, so this is just, this top section is maybe an acre where all of my stuff is. Probably actually a half acre from the end of the garden over there all the way to the other side of the shed. So you don't need like a ton of space, but it's nice to have the extra for the hardwood trees over that way and in the back. And then I can still clear all these cedar trees without worrying, you know, there's plenty of animal habitat and stuff. Yeah, I think that'll do it for this video. So just an intro. That's my life. That's where I live. And this is the place that I'm going to be upgrading and making cool shit. So stay tuned, subscribe, and don't forget to check out the webpage, which should have something up on it pretty soon. I'll go ahead and put some links. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter quite a bit. So if you want to follow my progress in pictures, check out Instagram. Twitter, kind of hit and miss at the moment. But that's other places to follow me online. And then, of course, the website is going to be up pretty soon, and that'll be gecko, offgridgecko.com. So I already bought the domain name. I just spent the whole morning fixing that computer back there because it ran into a glitch on the hard drive, so I had to redo some stuff. It's a big pain in the butt. Anyways, subscribe, stay tuned, and I'm going to try to make more videos and just kind of showcase what I'm doing out here, maybe some instructional stuff, so you might be able to learn some little off-grid tips that nobody else is talking about. And we'll go from there. I'll see you next time, hopefully. Bye. Thanks for watching.